rising with the dawn, nature's alarm clock. Each day in the Paleolithic world began not with a chime or a bell, but with shifting light and dropping cold. When the sun slipped above the treetops or over cave thresholds, early humans stirred, waking into a world where every hour mattered. There were no timepieces, only shadows and the scent of dew. Evidence from sites like the Dordogne region of France suggests groups organized their days around these rhythms, migrating with daylight and retreating before dusk. But some theorists believe a few individuals rose even earlier, tending embers or watching the forest edge. Were these assigned roles or instinctive behaviors? Scholars still debate whether prehistoric humans followed rigid routines or simply moved when their bodies told them it was time. Morning chores, sparks, streams, and shared tasks. Once awake, Paleolithic people didn't lounge, they acted. Mornings began with rekindling fire, often preserved from the night's coals. Starting from scratch with flint and tinder was laborious, so firekeeping was a trusted task. Water had to be retrieved from streams or springs, sometimes with makeshift containers like animal bladders or hollowed wood. Women, men, and even children had roles in gathering roots, eggs, or insects, nutrient-dense sources, often overlooked today. In places like Terra Amata, early humans seemed to share these tasks communally, with no clear hierarchy. But scholars still debate whether this distribution of labor was equal or shaped by age, gender, and environment. What's certain, mornings were focused, essential, and guided by an urgency we've nearly forgotten. The hunt begins. Strength, strategy, and subtlety. As the sun climbed, hunting parties prepared. Contrary to the image of solitary, spear-wielding cavemen, most hunts were collaborative, strategic efforts. Sites like Boxgrove in England show that early humans used coordinated ambush tactics, likely communicating with hand signals or calls. Spears weren't thrown at random, they were aimed, often from close range, requiring nerve and precision. And the hunters? Not just men. A burial site in Peru revealed a woman buried with hunting tools, challenging old assumptions. Scholars still debate whether such roles were routine or rare exceptions. What's clearer is that hunting required more than muscle. It demanded planning, silence, and deep understanding of animal behavior. To fail meant more than hunger. It meant risk. To succeed meant another day. Foraging intelligence, memory, poison, and protein. While some hunted, others scoured the land for plants, tubers, nuts, and bugs, a quieter but no less vital pursuit. Foragers needed encyclopedic knowledge of their ecosystem. A misidentified mushroom or unripe root could kill. In fact, the oldest known chewing gum, birch tar with teeth marks, was found in Denmark, suggesting early experimentation with natural substances. Children likely learned through imitation, trial, and stories. Some fringe theories suggest song was used as a mnemonic device for safe plants and paths. Scholars still debate whether such oral traditions existed in these early periods, or if memory alone guided decisions. Foraging offered stable returns, supported by protein-rich insects and occasional bird eggs. It required keen eyes, subtle touch, and, above all, patience. Toolmakers in action: stone, bone, and ingenuity. Afternoons often brought focused craftsmanship. In open shelters or shaded clearings, early humans shaped stone into blades, carved bone into needles, and bound materials with sinew and plant resin. Sites like Olergay in Kenya, dating back nearly 1.2 million years, reveal vast scatterings of hand axes, some so symmetrical they suggest not just utility, but pride in design. Fringe interpretations see these tools as status symbols or even early art. Hafting, attaching stone to wood, was a technological leap requiring heat, glue, and binding. Scholars still debate whether every adult mastered these skills or if dedicated toolmakers existed. Either way, these weren't crude improvisers. They were engineers in animal skins, adapting nature's debris into survival's sharp edge. Walls that speak. Art, symbols, and storytelling. Deep within cave chambers, beyond daily life's chaos, Paleolithic humans painted. The walls of Chauvet and Lascaux hold sweeping murals, galloping horses, stags mid-leap, and eerie handprints. Some animals were never hunted, suggesting the art wasn't just practical. These weren't mere doodles. They were messages, perhaps myths, possibly magic. Pigments were ground from minerals and mixed with fat or spit, then applied by fingers, brushes, or blowing through hollow bones. In torchlight, the animals seemed to move. Some fringe theories liken this to an early form of animation. Scholars still debate whether this was spiritual, instructional, or purely expressive, but clearly storytelling predates writing. And in those silent chambers, early humans made their minds known, in paint, not words. The fire circle, families, children, and learning. As daylight waned, the tribe gathered around the fire, warmth at the center, kin on all sides. This was when meals were shared, wounds tended, and knowledge passed down. Children mimicked tool use, listened to stories, and watched elders demonstrate survival secrets. At sites like the Grotte de la Marche in France, tiny tools suggest children learned by doing. Elders, though past hunting age, became living libraries. Fringe theories even suggest they acted as early teachers or spiritual guides. Scholars still debate whether roles were fixed or fluid, but cooperation was essential. The fire circle was more than light. It was classroom, cradle, and counsel. Here, memory became legacy, and the next day's survival began taking shape. Sacred shadows, death, dreams, and early rituals. Even in death, Paleolithic humans showed care. Burials like those in Shanidar Cave, where Neanderthals were laid with pollen traces and ochre, suggest rituals, perhaps mourning, perhaps something more. Red ochre often coated the deceased, possibly symbolizing blood, rebirth, or protection. Beads, tools, and animal bones found with bodies hinted a belief in an afterlife or the need to equip the dead. Some fringe theories propose dream visions guided these rites, with shamans interpreting meaning from dreams or trance states. Scholars still debate whether burial was symbolic or simply practical, but the consistent patterns across continents whisper of reverence, not randomness. Even without temples or texts, these early people reached for the sacred, quietly in earth and stone. Seasons of scarcity, migration, and memory. Paleolithic life flowed with the seasons. As food grew scarce or herds moved, humans followed. Migration wasn't wandering, it was memory in motion. In places like Dolny Vestovnica, mammoth bone dwellings suggest seasonal settlements, revisited year after year. Patterns in bones, pollen, and tools reveal how groups anticipated nature's turns. Fringe theories suggest early humans may have observed the stars or tracked animal behavior as primitive calendars. Scholars still debate whether such knowledge was empirical or intuitive, but migrations were far from aimless. To move was to survive. Trails were recalled, campsites marked, and stories carried from one river valley to the next. They didn't just adapt to nature. They learned its rhythms and made them their own. Night watch, darkness, music, and sleep cycles. As night deepened, the Paleolithic world didn't fall silent. Someone always stayed awake, guarding the fire, listening for predators, keeping the group safe. This pattern of staggered sleep, still seen in some indigenous communities, created a natural night watch. Evidence from caves like Grotte des Fées includes flutes made from bird bones, suggesting that music too had its place after dark. These sounds may have soothed children, marked rituals, or simply passed time. Some fringe thinkers argue rhythmic drumming or chant helped induce trance states for early spiritual practices. Scholars still debate how much of this nighttime activity was functional and how much was expressive. In darkness, humans didn't just hide. They harmonized, adapted, and stayed tethered to each other and to the firelight. The outliers, elders, wanderers, and unusual minds. Not every Paleolithic individual fit the mold of hunter or gatherer. Some, like Shanidar I, a Neanderthal with multiple disabilities, were cared for long after usefulness faded, suggesting a place for the vulnerable or wise. At other sites, individuals were buried with unusual objects, ochre, beads, tools never used. These outliers may have been shamans, artists, or early storytellers. Fringe theories speculate some showed neurodivergent traits, focused pattern makers, or dreamers who saw the world differently. Scholars still debate whether they held special status or simply lived on group margins. What's clear is that variation wasn't punished. In many cases, it was protected. Humanity, even then, had room for minds that wandered beyond the path.
Mysteries that linger. What we still don't know. Despite decades of excavation, many aspects of Paleolithic life remain elusive. We don't know what early humans called each other, how they grieved, or exactly what they feared. No voices remain, only pigments, bones, and scattered artifacts. We've decoded their tools, but not their laughter, their rituals, but not their inner worlds. Some fringe thinkers suggest we've underestimated their intellect or oversimplified their societies. Scholars still debate when true language began or whether symbolic thought emerged all at once or in waves. What we do know is that these people, our ancestors, were creative, social, and endlessly adaptive. They were not just surviving, they were becoming, and in many ways, they still are.
Conclusion. Cavemen didn't merely endure. They observed, adapted, and imagined. Their days were rich with purpose, their nights full of meaning. From firelight rituals to flint-edged innovation, they laid the quiet foundation for everything that followed. In their story, we glimpse the origin of our own and realize we've never truly left the cave.